Hey everyone, welcome to the Viking Code School information session. My name is Erik Trautman and I'm the founder of Viking Code School. So basically my goals for today are really just to give an overview of the program and answer any questions that anyone out there has about the program. And this session is designed to be interactive, and it's we're doing this over Google Hangouts on Air. It's going to be available on YouTube afterwards, but basically you'll have an opportunity to ask questions at any time. There's a Q&A app on the Hangouts, which is, I believe it's up on the top. There's a drop-down menu you can pull down, and you should be able to see the Q&A app there. You can also ask questions in the actual event on Google Plus if you want, and I'll be able to see those as well. So basically, I'm happy to answer those questions at any time. So feel free to interrupt me. Basically, what I'd like to do then, before we dive into too many questions, is just give a high-level overview of what it is that we do here, and give you a chance to hopefully come up with some good ones. And if not, we're always available afterwards at vikingcodeschool.com, or the specific programs. If you have questions about the Immersive Program, you can go to vikingcodeschool.com/program. The Flex program would be vikingcodeschool.com/flex. And if you had any email questions, send them over to hello@vikingcodeschool.com. So just as a high-level overview, basically, we're a mission-driven organization. Our goal is to launch 1 million high-growth careers, and that's around the world regardless of geography, education, prior experience, or anything along those lines. And every year we're sort of stepping one step closer to that overall vision. And what we started with was offering a full-time immersive program where students don't have to pay tuition until they get a job. And that's one that we're currently only able to offer to students who have an unrestricted right to work in the United States. But we definitely have our sights set on some bigger goals beyond that. And we've recently started betaing a part-time program that's based on the immersive program, which actually uses the same curriculum as that program. And that allows you, if you have a job, if you're going back to school, if you're not from the United States, or whatever it is, to take advantage of the program that we've put together in a way that's much more flexible to your particular situation. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of describe what the differences between those programs are, and you can sort of choose. You can sort of choose, what's the best fit for you. How does it all fit together? What questions do you have? Things like that. So just as a high-level overview of the immersive program, as I mentioned, that was kind of our primary program for a long time, and basically that's a cohorted bootcamp style program. And so it's very similar to the kinds of programs that you've seen in-person boot camps, although we tend to go longer and broader and more contextual than those programs. And of course, we're available online. But generally the format is it's a 16-week program. There's an admissions process to get in, which is extremely challenging. It's very much based around your ability to solve coding-related challenges or solve logic problems using code. And there's a whole preparation period as well, which typically takes between 1 and 2 months leading up to the program. And then finally, there's the 16 weeks of the program where you progress through that program with a cohort of anywhere between maybe 15 and 20 students. We keep things quite small in our cohorts to keep a strong ratio and really focus on you in particular. You'll go through that whole program working with other students all day, every day. That means that we have 3 times a day, we have full group meetings with all the instructors and all the students. And then in the interim periods between that, you're actually pairing on projects directly with another student. The program's incredibly intensive. It's called the Immersive Program for a reason. We cover an extraordinary amount of material over the course of 16 weeks, and students typically spend upwards of 80 hours a week working on the program. So that means that there's no room for pretty much anything else in your life during that period of time. If you've researched bootcamp style programs, you should be familiar with that. If you haven't, that's kind of how it works. There's no option for part-time jobs. There's no options for taking classes on the side, and it can be very challenging for students who have other commitments in your life, like working with family members and things like that. So typically, what we say is tell your significant others and your friends that you're going on a trip to Maui for 16 weeks, and then you'll be back at the end of it. So the program is fast-paced, it's challenging, and it's highly collaborative all the time. And that's an incredibly highly focused and supported experience going through that. Over the course of the program, we cover all sorts of different topics. Our core technologies are we teach all the fundamentals of computer programming, of computer science, of web development, of essentially everything you need to build up that stack so that you can become employable as a developer. Because of course, given the don't pay until you get a job model, that's obviously something that we're highly motivated to work with you to get towards. So that's right now, I believe we're the only program out there that actually offers that. And I hope that actually speaks to our confidence in the strength of the program that we actually offer. What I will talk about is the curriculum as well, but I think what I'd like to do is maybe focus. Let's actually go into the curriculum, and then I can talk about how the Flex program kind of bridges the gap onto the other side. So the goal is to make you employable as either a front end or a back end developer. So on the back end, of course, having the fundamentals to transition between pretty much whatever you'd like. And so what that means is on the back end, our core technologies are, we're teaching Ruby. We're using Ruby to help teach the fundamentals. So, data structures and algorithms, testing, object orientation, all sorts of things along those lines. We do cover HTML and CSS and Bootstrap and Sass, but basically those are meant to be sort of kind of the easier side of things. And so we kind of get those out of the way early, and then we really focus on the depths of learning how to code and really kind of the reason that you're here, the reason that you love solving difficult problems. We'll move forward. We get into databases, we cover SQL, we get into Ruby on Rails as our core backend framework, and we spend a fair bit of time teaching you not just sort of how to just throw up a web page on Rails, but really what's going on underneath the surface. How do you take a really challenging problem and break it apart? If someone tells you you need to build XYZ website, how do you break that apart, come up with a data model, build the database underneath it, and then build a Rails app on top of that so that you can confidently say that you're building the best possible engineered solution along that way. Then on the front end, we're going to work with you to teach JavaScript. I mean, so JavaScript is ubiquitous on the front end these days. It is the front end in terms of coding, and everything is moving more and more into the front end. So we spend a lot of time diving really deep into the language of JavaScript, which provides a really interesting counterpoint to what you've learned in Ruby. It's not quite as different as something like going from Ruby to C, like a very low-level language, but JavaScript does definitely exist somewhere on that spectrum. And you do end up also taking on kind of more of a functional aspect to the way that you create those programs. And so just on a language perspective, it's a lot of fun to go in and learn how JavaScript works. But then on we move beyond that. Of course, the goal isn't just to teach you a bunch of languages for the sake of that. The goal is to build applications. And so we'll do the usual things that we have to do to really build in your understanding of what JavaScript is. But then we're also going to take you further. We're going to teach you AngularJS as our front end framework. And that's essentially the most popular MD Star framework on the front end. JavaScript, the JavaScript framework landscape is a little crazy these days. It's starting to settle down, but basically, once you have exposure to one of these, transitioning from one to another is significantly easier. And building an Angular app on top of Rails API is a really powerful combination that you can have, precisely because it does give you a lot of versatility with where you're going to go with your career. So that essentially covers kind of the core aspects of the curriculum, but then the two additional things that are worth mentioning are final projects and getting hired. And so on the final project side, that's something that we do that's fairly different than a number of other places, in that we actually, regardless of whether you're working directly with other students all the time in the Immersive program, or if you're working more independently in the Flex program, you will be required to work with at least one other student, and typically in as large of a group as we can help you get to build the final project, because what that's designed to do is simulate you working actually as a software engineer on a software engineering team. And so the final project is designed to be a large scope project. If you're doing immersive pace, it's about 2 weeks. If you're doing flex pace, it's typically about a month. And the goal of that is to help you take a project from idea all the way through to demo using a real engineering team's workflow. And so what that means is you have to come up with the mock-ups, you have to come up with the user stories, you have to then take those user stories and come up with the acceptance criteria and the estimations for the points value of all those stories, throw them into a backlog, prioritize everything, plan out a couple of sprints, and then actually build those sprints. So divvy up the work with your team, set up the repos, set up the deployments, give everyone the right accesses, you figure out merge conflicts, figure out branching workflow, basically everything you need to do, again, to be acting as a software engineer on a team. And then with your advisor or with your mentor or whoever it is that's chaperoning this project, and it could actually also be an outside customer, they're going to help you with a touch point along the way, so that you and your team are pointing in the right direction, and that you essentially have the voice of the customer in your project. And so that's essentially your shining gem in your portfolio, the one that you're going to take forward, not just because it provides a really strong project, but also because it provides a strong experience that you can use to talk to the fact that, no, you didn't just sit in your basement and like build a couple of web pages and now you call yourself a developer, but you've actually worked on a team on a real scope project and have taken it from zero to completion. And that's also a very powerful thing, describing what it's like to work on a team, so that you can actually comfortably step into an environment and say, yeah, I don't know a lot of things, but I have a really good pattern for how this works. And you can start asking a lot better questions on day one. You can start adding value in a much quicker fashion. And then finally, to sort of go right back to that idea, is how do you actually get hired? And so we've baked everything into our curriculum itself. So regardless of which program you're taking, a lot of this actually occurs in almost a separate track alongside the curriculum. While you're doing the coding stuff, we also focus on job-related things. And what that means is that in the end of the day, the philosophy is not you get out the other side of the program, you hit a button, you say, hey, I've officially graduated, now it's time, where's my job, what do I do? It's very much the day that you enroll is the day that you've said that I'm committed to making a change in my life. And not everyone's going to go out and say that you want to go out and get a brand new job. Sometimes it's just to upgrade your existing skill sets, maybe move it within the same company, something along those lines. But this is something where, regardless of what your end goal is, there are steps that you need to be taking from day one. And our goal is to make sure that you have everything you need on day one to identify what it is that you need to do to start building up your web presence, to start actually being a developer on the web. It's very hard to be a developer and not have a web presence. If somebody Googles you up and doesn't find you in your web developer, it's kind of a strange thing. And so we work with you over the course of the first, well, depending on your time scale, for several months of the program, to really just start building up momentum with yourself on the web. And then we start getting more and more focused on your search, helping you identify what are the opportunities that you really want to pursue, who are the people that you should be reaching out to in those opportunities, how do you reach out to them, how do you start adding value, building relationships. And then that way, finally, when you get to the point where you're starting to become more versatile, where you're starting to become valuable as a developer, you can start sending out applications. And then you can start actually making an impact. You can start opening those doors, or at least getting your foot in those doors. And then in the latter part, we're going to focus a lot more on the mechanics of that actual job search. So hopefully you've been doing your due diligence, you've been building relationships along the way, and then you can start impressing people with how far you've come. And you can start getting out there and start going in the side door and start working your way in a place where maybe your resume when going in the front door would not be as impressive as somebody else who'd come from a top 10 CS program or had been working for a couple of years. But basically through the active hustle, through the active targeted hustle, you actually have the ability to kind of stand out from the crowd, because you're doing things that other people aren't, who are just dropping resumes on the door. And that's in a lot of ways the focus of the second half of that whole hiring side. And then additionally, of course, the mechanics of how do you pass an interview? What is the interview process? What are companies thinking behind the scenes? Because of course, you can't really beat a system unless you understand the system. And again, a lot of the advice you get on the internet is terrible, and people are sort of painting this picture like if you try hard and you work, and you kind of put yourself in the front door and you make a nice shiny cover letter, like everything will be fine. And that's a whole load of in the end of the day, you have to stand out, and it's all about how you stand out. And then you have to close the deal. You have to interview. You have to impress people, and you have to impress them on a personal level and on a technical level. And that means you have to be able to pass technical screens, phone screens, take-home challenges, and finally go through an offer negotiation process as well. And so all of this is covered as part of the core curriculum. And so in the immersive program, as mentioned, it's very intensive, and it's something that we're supporting you with our instruction staff directly every single day along the way to get you to that finish line. And then we support you after the program as well during the job search period while you're searching for a position. The Flex program is designed to be for people who can't take that time away from life and say that you're going out to Maui for 4 months or more. And that program is basically, we set it up as a month-to-month, so you don't have to commit. You don't have to commit to some $15,000, $18,000 program just from the get-go. You can basically try it on and see how it fits. And we've also given you several different levels that you can take the program at. And basically, what it's designed to do is to allow you, from pretty much any life situation, to take advantage of the curriculum that I just described, with whatever level of support it is that's going to help you to be most effective with that program. And so one of the big advantages of that is mentorship. And so what we'll do with that program is, even though you're taking it on sort of a more asynchronous individual level, we'll hook you up one-on-one with a mentor. and you're able to work with that mentor either once a week or 3 times a week, depending on the level of the program that you've chosen. And that person will be able to sort of be your bridge into industry, showing you best practices, giving you code review, talking about how to interview, practice interviews, all sorts of things along that end of the spectrum, and also just being your cheerleader along the way, which is a really, really helpful thing to have, keeping you on task, setting goals every single week. And that's definitely one of the biggest advantages of working with a mentor along the way. But you also don't have to. And so we do have a tier. The lowest tier in that program is the basic program. And that actually allows you to just still get access to all of the support resources that we have as a community. And what that means is that you have the ability to ask questions on Slack. You can participate in anything that we have in the community. Everyone is the same here. Every student is equal. Every alumnus, everyone is all sort of part of the same community. And you also have access to office hours where our instruction staff is just there in a room waiting for you, just like you're seeing this right now on the web. And you can bring in questions one-on-one oftentimes, because there's usually not a lot of other students there. And you just show up with code, show up with questions, or just hang out and watch. And you can learn some things and ask lots of questions. So you do have access to that, even if it's not always one-on-one. At the very least, it's a very interactive experience for getting help to the questions that you have. And so that's a tenet of the whole Flex program as you go through. And so, of course, just to sort of contrast, what are the big differences between those programs? The Immersive program, you're going through with a cohort of other students working in a very compressed time frame. The Flex program, you're going through individually, but on whatever time frame fits your life situation best. And while the Immersive program, we do offer on a fixed price, and we also offer it on the deferred fee level, the Flex program is always month to month. So you're able to just, if you decide it's not for you, you're welcome to leave the program. If you want to upgrade or downgrade your tier, you're also welcome to do that. So really, the name kind of says it all. It's designed to be as flexible as possible. And anyone's able to come in and join that program. We typically will, as part of the entrance process for that, we'll typically have a chat and just to see if the program is a good fit, and make sure that you sort of know what's going on, we know what's going on, we get to know you, and then otherwise you're able to kind of start pretty much whenever you want, which is another one of the big advantages of the Flex program, because we start every week. We have a start date every single Monday, and whereas the Immersive program is on a much slower time scale, where even though in the program you move faster, you have to wait for your start date. And so I think that covers the basic overview of how these programs are structured. If there are any questions, definitely please drop them in the Q&A app, or fire them into the Google event here on Google+, and then I'll be able to see them. And let me just see. I think I've covered everything. So we covered the Immersive program, we covered the Flex program, and we covered the curriculum. If you have additional questions, feel free to drop into the website, vikingcodeschool.com, fire over an email to hello@vikingcodeschool.com, and we're always here if you need us, and are often perfectly willing to have a chat and see where your head's at. So I encourage you, if this is something you're interested in, if you're looking to become a software engineer, if you're looking to make a big change with what you're doing, really encourage you to at least check it out. Look through our prep work. It's free. It's available online. It's vikingcodeschool.com/prep, and it's going to teach you things that you haven't otherwise gotten from any other prep work from any other source. So highly recommend you at least take a look at that. It'll give you a sense of how we teach, the way we present concepts, and hopefully help you decide if this is the right program for you. So then your other option, of course, would be to sign up for our newsletter. That's something we send out every week. We have information about our weekly Codecast speakers. We have basically a roundup of the best links, the best music, and the best bits of random nerdery from around the web. And that basically comes out every week. We'll send that out on Mondays. So encourage you to do that. You can do that right on our website as well. So I don't see any questions. So hopefully if you do have any, send them over to hello@vikingcodeschool.com. And otherwise, feel free to check out the program. Thanks for joining us.